Lopes fans, welcome in. My name is Brennan Williams, and this is Go Lopes Radio. Thank you again for joining us here during Mountain West Week. And today we have your Mountain West Awards. We are joined by intern Blake. Blake, how we doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good, man. I'm excited to get into this. You know, there's a lot of moving parts, as we know, with everywhere in college basketball, but, you know, the Mountain West especially. And so this was fun to kind of do a deep dive and get into different positions, rotations, take some guesses, take some flyers, and really excited for this. So, first, we're really quickly, let's just go over how this is going to work. We are going to run through the Mountain West individual awards first, things like Defensive Player of the Year, Newcomer of the Year, etc. Go one by one, compare and contrast. We'll go through our second and first team Mountain West and our Mountain West Player of the Year. And then we are going to end by picking our Mountain West regular season champ and Mountain West tournament champion. Now, much like everything we've done this week with Blake, we have not compared notes at all. So we are going to be finding this stuff out on the fly. So I'm excited to get right into it. Although I think our first one, we are probably going to be aligned on this one. Blake, I'm going to pass it over to you. We're going to start with Defensive Player of the Year. Take it away.
Yeah, this was definitely my easiest one to predict. I think I went with Magoon Guath, the center for San Diego State. Obviously, he won it last year as a freshman. He entered the portal at the end of last season, and it seemed like everyone wanted him. He ended up deciding to come back to San Diego State. He averaged 2.5 blocks per game last year, half a steal per game. He can switch on to guards on the perimeter. I mean, he's really an NBA level defender. So this one was pretty obvious for me. I went with Magoon Guath.
Yeah, my power rank or in the power rankings when I was talking about San Diego State, I panicked in the moment and said he might be Anthony Davis light, which saying anybody's like Anthony Davis in college basketball. Obviously, many people know kind of from what he's done in NBA, but the year in college basketball is one of the craziest years we've ever seen. That probably was a little out of control, so I do maybe want to apologize for that. But you're correct; it really is insane, potentially as well if he's added some weight on. I'm in the same spot. I don't have a ton on to add on to it other than just hearing good things, hearing he's recovering from whatever injury he had this summer. He's going to be ready to go. And can't wait for that first San Diego State game you were going to want to watch to see kind of what version of Magoon Guath we get, because really impressive. So we both align on that Defensive Player of the Year, Magoon Guath at San Diego State. Let's go to Newcomer of the Year. And Blake, go ahead, take it away. You go first again.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a different one than you here. I have Kamani Hamilton for UNLV. He's a transfer from High Point. Did you have him too?
Yeah, dang it. But keep
Oh,
going.
yeah, he averaged 13, 4, and 2 on a High Point team last year. They went 29 and 6. If you remember, they were 13 seed in March Madness. They actually gave
Yeah.
Purdue a pretty good game in the first round. But even looking to the year before, he was on a team where he had a bigger role and he averaged 15 and 7. So I think we're going to see at UNLV a little increase in the role for him. You know, he's a great finisher. He can hit some threes. He has a good back to the basket game, and just a fun all around player to watch.
Yeah, that's who I went with too. I mean, really excited about him. And I think one thing watching him, Blake, is he's very unique sometimes in the way he plays, watching some of the tape and the possessions. I think we all have those friends. I hate doing this and comparing any sort of pickup basketball, especially at my age, to anything remotely close to the sport that these guys play. But we know that friend that kind of like plays basketball a little differently. You know, it's like the Mike Conley
Yeah.
floater with he does a lot of that stuff, like unique, weird footwork that kind of catches people off guard, like how Paul Pierce used to be so slow. It worked super well. He does a lot of just weird kind of things, and it works really well. I think we, like you said, we have proof that he's done it in the Big South. They were 13 seed, good team. And I align with you again. We're 2 for 2. Kamani Hamilton, UNLV, our newcomer of the year. Okay, let's see. I think this one might get us here. How about sixth man of the year?
Yeah, sixth man of the year. This was my hardest one to predict because you really don't even know who's starting yet.
Yeah.
So this one was kind of a flyer for me, but I went with Tay Simmons, Louisiana Tech transfer at San Diego State. This is my prediction based on if San Diego State decides to roll with the BJ Davis, Reese Waters backcourt. I could see him getting a lot of minutes off the bench and maybe staggering with the starters a little bit because he is a true point guard. He was third in the NCAA in assists per game last year at 8 assists per game. So if he does end up coming off the bench, I think he's a good bet for sixth man of the year.
Gosh, I almost went there. I went with the San Diego State guy. We are a very pro Sean Newman sort of podcast here. At that game last year that GCU played against him. It was just like mesmerizing to see. It was so old school, great. I actually went
Yeah.
with Farrell Compton. So
Okay.
I've been kind of keeping an eye on things out at SDSU and some of the content stuff that's being put out. And there's a lot of Farrell Compton buzz as well. He's a freshman last year, pretty big body, kind of one of those like tweener forwards, just kind of out there in the way. And I could see him taking a massive step forward, a year of, a full off season. And like you said, it's kind of guessing what their rotation is going to be. It's really a guess. So I have him as a guy who could take a step forward. I thought he'd probably be on the outside looking in just because they have so much talent.
Yeah.
But I agree. It was tough to go with. I think the thing that I wanted to do, which I think we were probably aligned here, is try to reward San Diego State. We've talked about how impressed, we are with the roster they put together, the squad they've got. I think, was that your kind of strategy too? Like, hey, I want to reward this team that I think is going to have a lot of depth and be super talented.
Yeah, there's just so many guys to choose from that roster that are super talented. So that was my best bet, is going with one of those guys and expecting that at least one of them will break out off the bench and kind of take that role as the lead six man.
We love it. Let's go to now our freshman of the year. And I have a feeling I might have the same person. So I want to caveat here. Anyone who is categorically called a freshman, we know that, especially for international players, what year they coming over, eligibility, that stuff's kind of being addressed. But this includes anyone who's technically has a freshman by their name on the roster. Blake, take it away.
Yeah, so for my freshman of the year, I have F.A. Demeril from GCU. I think this might be a hotter take to some Mountain West fans that haven't heard the name. He's a 20-year-old rookie. He is slated to start at center for GCU. He has great size. He's listed at 7'1". And the thing that really sticks out to me is how fluid he is. He can make extra
Oof.
pass. When he gets doubled, he can drop it down. And he can hit some threes and some mid-range shots as well. I think he's going to have a really big year and catch a lot of people by surprise.
Yeah, the thing that I'm really interested with him, because I've got F.A. Demeril as well. So we are 3 for 4 so far on agreeing here. Is I'm curious about kind of what version of him we get, because I think there's a version where he could come in and, be so seamless and be 8-8 on a GCU team, not require the ball, not really do any of those crazy things, shoot threes, handling the ball, whatever. But I think there's a version they might be able to slowly grow on. And by Mountain West play, like, could he be doing some of those things you mentioned? Could they literally be running some offense through him? Could he be handling the ball at the top of the key? Could he be hitting threes? That stuff's scary to think about. Obviously he gets to campus late, but I also agree, because if you look at a lot of the data boys when it comes to the roster, they don't have him rated super high. I think that's just an inefficiency. Comes those international guys. FA, all I've heard is that he's been incredible since he's got the campus, and he's a guy who could really blow up. So I have F.A. Demeril as well. We are 3 for 4 there. So let's head. Next individual award is the Steve Fisher Coach of the Year. One thing to call out here before you go, Blake, I'm curious what they're going to do with this award, because SDSU leaving the Mountain West. Do they keep this award named after
Yeah.
Steve Fisher? Listen, above my pay grade, not for me to decide. I saw that and kind of laughed at it. But anyways, who's going to be your Steve Fisher Coach of the Year next year in the Mountain West?
Yeah, I don't have too much on this one. I'm pretty high on San Diego State, so I'm going to keep it there with Brian Dutcher. I really do think they end the year as a top 25, top 15 team, and if they do end up being that good, it's hard for me not to give them to Dutcher. So, yeah, I got Brian Dutcher.
Man, we agree. I am. We're going to go 4 for 5 on these individual awards, which is absolutely crazy. I think it's cool, fitting kind of last year for SDSU in the Mountain West that Brian Dutcher wins the award for Steve Fisher Coach of the Year. I think that's super cool. I agree with all the other sentiments you had. SDSU being really good, and I think they're gonna. I agree. I think they're gonna have a number next to their name throughout most of the season. So excited to see that. So Man, that is crazy. We align on 4 of the 5 individual awards. And now we're going to take this to our all conference teams. We are not going to be doing a third team for this. The third team for us gets a little dicey. Usually have 1 or 2 players. They try to reward some good stats, bad team guys. We don't want to get into that mess. So we're going to keep it nice and clean with only 2 teams. We're also not going to do an all defensive team. But Blake, why don't you go ahead and take it away? Give us your full second team. As you say each player, if you have a little blurb on them, talk about them a little bit, and tell me why you chose them.
Yeah, so for my second team, starting things off, I have Andrew Meadow. He was a really good starter for Boise State last year. I think he should be their best player this year. I actually thought about putting him in the first team, but he should be a really good player, good shooter as well. Next, I have BJ Davis. He also started last year for San Diego State. He averaged 9 points, 1.5 steals. He's a really good three-point shooter, and he's also a pretty good point of attack defender. So I like him a lot. Next, I went with a new guy. He goes to Colorado State, a transfer from Marist. His name is Josh Pasquarelli. I think he's going to be
Okay.
really fun to watch this year. Yeah, he averaged 16 a game last year at Marist. The thing that stuck out to me is his three-point ability, 39% on 7 attempts a game. So I think we're going to see some ridiculous games this year from him where he hits maybe 5 or 6 threes.
Yeah.
Next, I went with Gary Clark, another newcomer, Texas A&M Corpus Christi transfer for Utah State now. He averaged 15 and 8 last year on some solid efficiency. He's really physical. He's a good rebounder, and I still don't know how minutes will shake out for Utah State. They got a lot of newcomers, especially in the front court. So I'm not sure if he'll even start. He might come off the bench, but I think he fits a role for them pretty well, just being a physical guy down on the block. And then rounding things off, I got F.A. DeMaril. We just talked about a bit. Freshman from
Okay.
TCU. I think
Love
he's
it.
have a big season. Yeah.
Got it. So we got a Lope on there. Pretty spread evenly, right? I think you had 5 guys from 5 teams. Is that
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
5 guys from 5
Five
teams.
different guys. Yeah.
We love that. Okay, so we're gonna go with my second team right now, and then we'll both do our first teams and then our player of the year after that. So my second team, I have Drake Allen, former WAC guy, steps into a little bit of a bigger role. He is going to have. I think the main reason for this is the what you would call the Klay Thompson theory. So when Klay Thompson and Steph Curry played together, they were obviously legendary. It's, are you going to have the second best defender every night? And to me, Drake Allen is going to have the second best defender every single night. Best guard defender is going to guard Mason Falstaff. That's not saying Drake Allen's not good. He averaged, I think, 8 a game last year. They have one of their other backcourt guys who transferred out. And so I think he's going to step into a role, and I think we could see him get up to, 12, 13 a game. Efficient, pass the ball a little bit. And yeah, I think we could see him really flourish this year. I also went with an SDSU guy, but I went in a different direction. Went with Reese Waters, who's back from injury. I'm worried about the counting stats with him being able to get to a spot that can get him on a team. He does a lot of the little things, obviously coming off injury. But I think, again, I want to see some SDSU guys on these 2 teams. And I think he is a fantastic option there. Next, I have Javon Buchanan. So Boise State, he's a 6th man of the year last year for Boise. Really good. Comes in, I think he's going to get a much bigger piece of the pie. We've talked a little bit about that Boise team and the core they have. He's one of those important pieces. They keep guys there, they develop, and then they add kind of on the fringes with transfers. Next up, I have Nana Owusu-Anane for GCU. I have praised him, almost all summer. I loved what he did at Brown. I love kind of the heart and soul that he has brought to this team. And again, a little concerned with the counting stats with GCU. We'll talk about that later. But I think he makes his way onto one of these teams, if anything, because of just what people are going to watch and the little things he does, as well as he should get plenty of rebounds and score the ball. This is going to be a controversial pick, Blake, and so I apologize because I have a hot take for my first team. So hold on here, but I have Magoon Guaf
Okay.
on my
Wow.
second team as the big guy. I know, a little controversial. Defensive player of the year as a complete runaway, no questions asked. I don't think anyone gets close. Could lead the nation in blocks. A few things I'm concerned about here, potentially. One is San Diego State being really, really good, really deep. He might not score the ball enough maybe to get on that first team. I think he's going to have the impact. I mean, we've sang his praises all summer here at Go Lopes Radio, and that is a little controversial, but I do have him rounding out my team. So I've got 2 San Diego State guys, a Utah State player, and Boise and a GCU player in my second team.
That's interesting. Yeah, Magoon Guath on the second team. It's definitely a hot take. I'm excited to see who you have on that first team.
I know it's going to be a little from left field, but I'm excited to get to it. Why don't you go ahead, take us to your first team? And there's one big question here, ladies and gentlemen, as we head into this first team is, are you going to see player X or player Y on the first team? Because if you don't see him on the first team, they're going to be player of the year here. So I'm very curious to see what we see on this first team from you, Blake. Go ahead.
Yeah, so starting things off, I do have Magoon Guath on the first team. I think his floor is just so high. Even if he doesn't
Yeah.
progress offensively, I think his floor is just so high defensively that I'm willing to trust him as a first team guy. Next, I do have Kamani Hamilton. Talked about him a bit earlier. Just I trust his role at UNLV and how good he was last year on 29-6 team at High Point. I do think he's gonna have a really big season this year at UNLV. Next, I went Brian Moore for GCU. This might be
Okay.
a hot take as well. I think he's going to take the lead at GCU. I think he's going to be their main guy, their go-to guy. He averaged 18-4 last year at Norfolk State. They were a pretty good team. If you remember, they did make March Madness. They played Florida in the first round.
Tough
He's a
break.
solid
Yeah.
shooter. Yeah, yeah, it was a tough break. He had foul trouble that game, so he didn't do a ton. But there was one game of Brian Moore's that really stuck out to me. It was at Tennessee when they were number one in the country. He had 18 points, a super efficient game. And I was really impressed with him just watching some film that game. He also proved multiple times he can hang with high major talent. There was another game against Stanford where he scored over 20 points. So I was super impressed with him there. And then the last two guys I have are both the contenders for Player of the Year. I put Miles Bird and Mason Falsa both on there. Both elite players. They'll both be in contention for Player of the Year, and I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit more after this.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. Okay. So Brian Moore on your first team. And again, you see, I feel like kind of rewarding a lot of those higher end teams, which is, again, usually how those work. I love it. Okay. So for my first team, I have Miles Bird. We talked about him a ton already. I feel like, this whole summer, the excitement of him coming back, I think he makes his way onto that team pretty easily. I've got kind of two hotter takes that are on this first team. First is Dayton Albury. He comes over. He's a Utah State guard. He did a little bit for him last year, but he went to New Mexico. To me, this reeks of I kind of maybe get to have the car keys for a brand new team here. He's got Mason Falsav that's going to, suck up a lot of the energy. Obviously, Drake Allen's there as well. I think he's going to go to New Mexico. I think he's going to be their go-to guy there and really get things going. We talked about how much of a question mark that they were on Wednesday when we talked about their non-conference game we're excited about. I think he's kind of the answer to a lot of their questions. So I think there's going to be a lot of volume available for him there. Andrew Meadow, I obviously have him from Boise State. I think he could be, I've mentioned this as well, your sneaky bet for Mountain West Player of the Year. We talked about last year, he kind of got thrown into the ring as a starter, obviously a guy they were relying on, and he kind of met the moment. I think he could take another step forward. So I have him on the first team, Boise State. I also have Kamani Hamilton. I think that's more of a volume play. Like I said, I had them 4 seed for my preseason rankings. I think he's going to get a ton of volume, a ton of rebounds, and a ton of points. And I think he's going to be really hard to keep off that first team. And then for my big guy, out of left field, but I think another guy that is nobody's talking about for Boise State from the transfer portal is Drew Fielder. Kind of an unpopular pick. I know Magoon Guath is the easy way to go here, but he checks a lot of boxes for me. Played at Georgetown. He can kind of spread the floor. He can shoot it really well. He can get down low. He's a big guy. He's older. He comes back to Idaho, which is where he grew up. So a little bit of a homecoming there. I think he slides in as their big guy and is really, really versatile and really good. I think he's going to get some serious counting stats. And kind of my hot take there is having Drew Fielder from Boise State on the Mountain West first team.
Yeah, I was definitely considering him for my second team. Obviously, playing in Georgetown, playing in the Big East, I do think he'll take a big
Yeah.
step up this year. That's an interesting take. I like that.
So why don't you go ahead, take us to your final choice player of the year. It sounds like you might even still be choosing who you're going to go with here. So let's hear it.
Yeah, this was such a hard debate for me. I ended up going with the guy that I think has just a little bit higher upside, and I think that's Miles Byrd. He averaged 12 and 3 last year, was probably San Diego State's best player. Just Swiss Army knife type of player, great at getting to the hoop, great on defense, great at getting to the passing lanes and transitions. The thing for him, knock on him, is his efficiency. It really
Yeah.
wasn't good last year, 38% from the field and 30% from three. But that is why I do think he has the higher upside because he was so good last year and he didn't even really shoot the ball well. So if he can turn up those efficiency numbers, I do think he'll be player of the year. I think he'll end up being a first round draft pick. With that being said, Mason Falstaff's a great player. He's such an all around good player. He's such a winner. So that was such a hard decision for me.
Yeah, I settled on Falsav. I think he's going to have a little bit of a larger burden. We've talked about San Diego State's depth. I think Falsav's going to have the ball in his hands a lot. He's going to be expected to do a lot of their offense, make a lot of their plays. I think he's going to score a ton. I think he's going to rebound. Obviously, he's going to assist, get others involved. And I just think he's going to have a heavier burden. It is tough because if San Diego State gets the one seed, you want to lean towards rewarding them with the player of the year. But I think Utah State, we've talked about them as well, being a team that could potentially kind of get themselves on the national spotlight. I think that would be because of Mason Falstaff. So I went with him as well for player of the year. So tough to choose, though. I agree, and I think Bird dealt with some injuries. So we might not even have seen the best version of him potentially. So really, really tough decision, but some big time talent this year in the Mountain West.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a two-man race, in my opinion, between those two. And I'm excited to see who's the better player this year.
Yeah, and those games are going to be good. Those games are going to be really good. Like,
Oh, yeah.
obviously we're going to be, if you're just a college basketball fan and GCU's not playing that night, you're going to want to turn into those Utah State, San Diego State games because those two are going to be going at it. So that'll be really fun. So we are going to end this pod by we're going to talk our regular season champion and then our tournament or Mountain West tournament champion. Blake, who do you have for your regular season champion in the Mountain West?
Shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. I went with San Diego State here. I think they have the best returners coming back. They got a lot of new guys coming in that I like, and I do think they have the best coach in the conference. So I went with San Diego State.
We are in agreement. I think over, picking a team to win a conference, it's play over 2 or 3 months. Who can sustain maybe one injury and still be good? Who can, win maybe different ways? Obviously, their defense is going to be good. No questions asked. They're going to have nights where they can put some guys in that might not be as good defensively, but can score the ball. So I think they can win different ways. I don't think they're going to be bothered. They're going to be prepped. We've talked about that. They probably are playing the toughest non-conference schedule in the Mountain West. So I think they'll be ready come Mountain Conference play as well. So they are also my regular season champion. Does that change for you? We get to Vegas, the Mountain West Conference tournament, which takes place at Thomas and Mack. Did you go with SDSU or did you go with somebody else?
I decided to switch it up. Winning the conference tournament, obviously there's a little more variance, single elimination. You got to win three straight games if you get one of those top seeds. I decided to switch it up. I went Utah State. I think they got some older guys, some good continuity there, and I think they'll show up come March.
That's where I wanted to go. And then I sat and I stared at it for a little longer. And Blake, I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to say it. This is not out of bias. I genuinely believe in this and believe that they can do it. I picked the Grand Canyon University Antelopes to win the Mountain West Conference tournament this year. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. I'm concerned over 3 months. We talked about that with San Diego State, how we think they're prepped for that. I think GCU is going to have some adjusting to do. They're going to be figuring out so much of their rotation, the camaraderie, all of that over, this is going to be a season-long battle to figure some of that stuff out. The talent is unquestionable, so I'm not concerned about the talent, but figuring that out I think is going to be tough. But here's what we know about this team. They are always ready come March. Just period, point blank. A big piece of that is Coach Jack. We talked with him this summer. These guys are going to be physically ready. If it takes four games in 4 days, I think they're ready for it. You add in, Bryce and just how good he has been at kind of moving the chess pieces on the board game to game, building momentum. And then I think you add in, listen, these are guys that might not have, we've talked about the counting stats when it comes to awards. GCU maybe not going to light up the first and second team all conference, in my opinion. That's because the scoring to me is going to be balanced, and they've got such good veteran leaders, Brian Moore and Jaden Henley and Nano Wusuwanane. But I think by the time we get into Vegas for the Mountain West Conference tournament, this team is ready to go. They have the veteran leadership, and they are going to pull off. If it takes 4 in 4 days, I think they'll do it. If it's 3 in 3 days, I think they do it. And I think the Grand Canyon University Antelopes win this year's Mountain West Conference tournament.
I love that take. I mean, obviously it's going to be tough, but it does seem like every year that when it matters most, Bryce Drew has all these guys ready to be their best. And so I think that's a good take for sure.
I think this could be a different team too by the time we get to that part of the schedule, even from January. I think the team you might see in January for GCU is going to be like immensely different than the team that shows up mid-March to play the conference tournament. F.A. Demerol could be a completely different player. We saw, for instance, look at what Caleb Shaw did last year. I think we can comfortably talk about this. There were a few games where he was almost unplayable, like trying to handle the ball, trying to create offense. It was not going well, got doghoused. And then we saw him by the time February and March came around. He was a go-to rotation guy who could shoot the 3, rebound, do all that. I think I see a similar track for this team in that they figure some things out, maybe sputter, make a few mistakes early, and come March when they get to Vegas, I think this team gets it done. Unquestionable. Another NCAA tournament, in my opinion, for the Grand Canyon University Antelopes. So, guys, those are our awards. Thank you so much for tuning in to everything, Go Lopes Radio during Mountain West Week. College basketball is getting close. We are super excited again that game for GCU in Waco against Baylor. We're going to get our first real look at some game film for these guys, and we're really excited. Blake, thanks for hopping on. And you know what? I swear, guys, we did not plan that at all. We aligned on 4 of the 5 awards, but so be it. I think, we're just both really excited. And I think we're both high on the same teams and the same guys. So we'll see how it works out.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Cheers.